So part 2 of this video will cover item number 8 in the 2-2 exercise, which says to determine the optimal solution for drink mixing using solver. Now this really has nothing to do with the raw data that was provided and manipulated and charted on the first tab. So in this exercise, we'll go to the solver data slide, tab, I should say, and it will describe the different coffees that are made and the amount of coffee, milk, and sugar that's needed to produce each item and the profit per drink. And then, of course, it's going to describe the inventory, how much coffee is on hand in ounces, how much milk is on hand, how much sugar is on hand. And this is a very cool function of Excel because it's going to run a Monte Carlo simulation, which means it's going to change each variable incrementally thousands and thousands of times to come up with the optimum solution to whatever you select. So we go to the top. So the first thing we do is go over to the solver data, and you can see on this screen with the parameters that we want to manipulate in order to maximize profit. We select enable content, make sure there are formulas in all these cells, and then we go to the data tab and select the Excel solver. And since our objective is to maximize profit, we say set the objective to K29, which is the profit calculation. And we're going to do that by modifying these variables, how much of each type of coffee is going to be made. And then press enter to get that into here. And then we are going to add our constraints, and one of the constraints was that we make at least 50 of every type of coffee, and I'll explain why that had to be done in here once I enter that. B28 to J28, which is the total of all the coffee, every one of those cells has to be greater than or equal to 50. Now the reason that is because profit per drink right here, you can see that the ristretto has the highest profit. So if you really had a choice and you were only trying to maximize profit and not trying to provide a good selection, you would only make that one coffee. So we're forcing it to make at least 50 of everything. Next thing we add is to make sure that K25 is less than or equal to D18. K25 is the total amount of coffee we use, and it has to be less than the number of ounces of coffee on hand. Can't use more than we have supplies to make. Then we do the same thing for the other supplies. K26 has to be less than D19 so we don't overuse milk. And then K27 has to be less than D20 since we can't use more sugar than we have. And I press OK. And you can see in the solver you have all the parameters necessary and the constraints that Excel has to use as it runs through thousands of scenarios to maximize the profit. So the next thing I will say is let's run the solution. Down here on another screen that you're not seeing, it says solver found a solution, all constraints and optimality conditions are satisfied. So I say Okay, keep that solution and come back up to this screen, and you can see what the solution was. The solver said we would make 50 of everything except ristretto. We would make 525, and that's a very, very predictable answer since it had the most profit of any of the selections. And like I said, if you never constrained to have to make 50, it just would have made all of that one type of coffee with the most profit, but then you wouldn't have a good product selection and people would never come to the coffee shop. So that's how this is calculated, and you can see the total profit is $3,300, and basically used up all the inventory they had to come up with that profit. So part two is where you will have to analyze this data and explain what some of the charts and the solver indicated. Basically, what is the data telling you, because that's more important than just manipulating the spreadsheets. This is not an Excel spreadsheet class per se, it's a data analysis class, so you're using Excel to create the data, but then you need to analyze it and decide what it means from so you can make data-driven decisions in management. Okay, if you have any questions, email me, text me, post a discussion, a general discussion, and I will answer any and all questions within a day. Thank you and have a great day.